Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Greenfield podcast. I'm your host, Hilmarie Hutchison, and today's episode is especially relevant for anyone who's ever found what others might consider success, but still felt an emptiness underneath it all. Our guest today, Nancy Ho, is an internationally recognized thought leader, executive coach, and author of The Professional Paradox. Nancy is on a mission to help high-performing professionals align outward success with inner fulfillment. Through her coaching, speaking, and writing, Nancy empowers executives, entrepreneurs, and mid-level leaders to redefine what success really means. Nancy, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Nancy, let's begin with your story. Could you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. It is often a question asked like, what was the pivotal moment that got me into this coaching space, therapy space, or rather I call it the helping people profession. And my answer has always been, it's a very natural progression for me. It wasn't like, something happened and I went for some coaching or went for some therapy and therefore I'm convicted and I go into that. So that's where I want to start from. Why I said it's pretty natural. I suppose I came from a background, all right, more so my mom, that's a natural leader. So I was already like being parent in the sense that you can always stand for what you want, be who you are, and you are to be very comfortable with your own skin and go for what you want. So in that sense. So from very young, pretty much, I would say my mom is an entrepreneur. From an entrepreneurial background, I was already kind of like driven to pursue my heart's desire. So that background led me where I am today in a sense, of course, not step by step, not like, I could leap that. I just was intrigued, even when I was in school, to be able to help and impact on people's life. That means like even when I was a teenager, right? Being teenager, we like to enjoy ourselves, not study all the time. But somehow I have the knack to say like, hey, yes, while study is very important, right? We don't want to fail in school. But then, okay, we must know how to balance between play and work.
Excellent. I love that. So your mom was a great role model for you, being an entrepreneur herself. So that already gave you what it could look like to be successful and what you could achieve yourself. I also like what you said, even as a teenager, you had that knack to inspire others, to influence others, helping them to sort of have a good balance in their lives. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, in that sense, at that time, yes, I said, yeah, we want to go play, right? Of course, who wants to study all the time? I guess most teenagers will not. But again, we know if we fail or we do badly in school, we're going to have big problem. So in that sense, we need that balance, not necessarily that we really know what balance is about, but at least we do not sort of like overlooked the important areas in our life, just like work and play.
I love that even as a teenager, you had that sense, that ability to see that need for, yes, everyone wants to play when they're teenagers, but we also have to have the serious, but also we don't want all of it to be serious. We need to find that balance. So I like that. Let's talk about the concept of the professional paradox. What exactly is it and why do you think it resonates so deeply today?
Right. So what I said a little ago, right? I said, hey, sounds like a balance. We want to play, but we need to work. Work as like, get our grades, put them together that at least we can progress. Now, all being said, when you're younger, as we grow older and we want to pursue our heart's desire, we may just then get caught up with the outside world success, the external success. All right, what we pursue our dreams. So fortunately, I don't know, that we sort of like look at the benchmark from the outside, that what success looks like. Whether it could be in terms of wealth, in terms of power, in terms of status, in terms of title, whatever that means, we tend to lean towards that much more than the internal fulfillment. So I was caught up with that. I have to admit that I realized it thankfully, pretty young, in my late 20s, that I realized that success meant so much from the outside. I call it chasing, keep chasing milestone after milestone. And at the end, after you have, or rather I had, and achieved that, what does it really mean? Do I really feel that good? Probably that moment. But is that really that purposeful, meaningful, fulfilling? In fact, I felt empty. I felt the void. And hence I discover what I call the paradox of success, the flip side of success. Not the conventional what we can see, but deep down the flip side of success, call it something unconscious that happened, that we have it all on the outside, but inside does not necessarily feel all that fulfilled. That's where the paradox of success comes to play.
I love that you mentioned that this was your own lived experience, having been caught up with all the benchmarks of what others think success is, looking at all the external factors and leaning towards measuring success only from an external viewpoint, chasing milestones, but then at the end of it, for yourself, feeling that emptiness. So why do you think the professional paradox resonates so deeply today?
In fact, with my clients, I served the C-suites, senior executives, meet managers, and even business owners, that it had showed up that they have it, so-called like on the outside, they have it all. Have it all meaning like, they have the title, they have the status, they have that wealth, they have that network, they have the family, they have so-called everything. But inside, deep down inside, especially when they go to sleep, it's like, I don't know what's wrong. They can't put their finger down to like, this is wrong or that is wrong, but just do not feel good. And I often say this, all of us, every single individual, from the youngest to the oldest in this world, we all want the same thing. Although pretty much it may express it in a different way, down we want the same thing. And what's the same thing? To feel good. So when one does not feel good, it's really not a good place to be. It's really a bad space. And we have seen a lot in celebrities, whether it could be the Hollywood celebrities or any part of the world celebrities. We have known of the stories that they have it all, but at the end of the day, they overdose, they drink heavily. Some even, take on a path that one should not think about. But why do they do that? Again, the emptiness, that void, that part inside them is screaming so loud, but yet themselves or others cannot understand why it should be the case. Because you have it all, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So you saying that what everyone is looking for is to feel good. Can you maybe define what this feel good? Is it a feeling? Is it a satisfaction? Is it a emotional state?
I'll call it as an energy, because why I would not even call it a feeling? Because where does feelings come from? Feelings really come from our thoughts. Oh, I feel good when I buy this bag, for example. I feel good when I get a promotion. I feel good when I've got another kid. I feel good when those are thoughts related. I'm not saying those things will not make a person feel good, but those feelings are very very cognitive related. So when I talk about feel good, I'm talking about this energy that you're just good. You can't express it. Call it a sense of peace. Call it a sense of okayness. In my language, I always say, it's okay. Chill. Whatever happened, I feel chill. I feel okay. I feel at peace. I feel comfortable within my own skin. That's what I meant by feel good. I mean, whether somebody is wanting that promotion, whether somebody wanting that, another $1 million or wanting another car, another house, I think the energy at the end of the day is to feel good. I feel good having the house. I feel good having the car. I feel good having the promotion. But after they got a car, after they got a house, after they got the promotion or that baby or that whatever, right? They thought that makes them feel good. Does this feel good really sustain?
That's an important point, that when the feelings come from our thoughts, so I'm going to feel good because I spent the money doing this or bought that. That's sort of a fleeting feeling that passes quite quickly. And by tomorrow or the next day or the next week, you forgot that feeling. Now you have to find something else to get some feeling. Whereas what you are talking about is more a positive energy and emotional state that lasts, that's really within a person, rather than external things that give us sort of temporary a feeling of happiness or something.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier about so-called professionals or people who are entrepreneurs or even maybe also very high-achieving professionals. These are the kinds of people that you work with closely. What are some of the most common struggles that they face behind the scenes?
I mean, the common struggles, like I said earlier on already, right? They thought that pursuing that goal, whatever the goal means or goals, all right, would make them feel good. But yes, for that moment. But after they have achieved it, and then they said, now what? Okay, sure, they can go for another goal, another goal, another goal. It's a very unsettling kind of energy or the feeling deep down. But it's not something that someone could describe, oh, because I've got a bad relationship with my wife or my husband, or because I'm stressed over this or that, you know? They just can't put their finger there, but they just said something feels wrong. And that really boils back to the fact, I always call it, what is your purpose?
Very interesting. So realizing that pursuing goals and milestones does not provide lasting sense of peace. And this is something that affects clearly those who are high achieving professionals, but any person really that makes goals or milestones, achieving like a checklist with things that's where happiness or feeling good is going to come from. They reach those points and then suddenly realize, wait, it was all temporary. This is not the lasting peace or the sense of peace that I hoped I would achieve. That's what I'm understanding from what you've said so far.
Correct. But then, like I said, of course, it is important that we do set goals and achieve whatever goals that we want, you know? Just like when I said in school, we need to have that good grades, right? We need to get education. At the same time, you want to have fun, you know, that kind of thing. So it's not like one or the other.
I love that. So there needs to be a balance of the things that we are pursuing. We need to have some downtime doing things that's feeding our soul, while also on the professional side having some goals, but don't put everything in one bucket, because then you're going to be disappointed at the end.
Yeah. In fact, there are teenagers that come to me, you know, some of these high performers or rather high achievers will send their kids to me, you know. And of course, like children being children, of course, they always shout about, I want freedom, right? It doesn't matter what age, we all want freedom to do the things that we want. And I said to them, yes, we can have freedom. And what's your issue? Oh, that's the reason why I spend a lot of time, you know, doing what makes me happy. So I said, now, the point is time for everything. Time to sleep, time to rest, time to eat, time to play, time to work. It's time for me time for couple time for family time. So it's time for everything. Of course, the balance is not equal number of hours, but not overlooking any areas. That's important for us as a being in a holistic sense. Yeah.
That makes absolute sense. And I love that you have the opportunity to work with young people who still have their whole future ahead of them. If they can learn at that young age, in their teens, the importance of balance, then that sort of sets them up for the rest of their lives to be successful on both fronts in their lives.
Absolutely. Yes.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit and talk about burnout. I know this is something that is a huge issue, with 77% of professionals reporting experiencing burnout. Why do you think burnout is so prevalent among people, especially those who are successful?
So burnout really is not about overwork. To me, it's not about overwork. It's not about having that, wow, I got so much to do, that loads and all that. It's really about not quite happy doing the things we want to do. Not quite happy doing the things we want to do means that I don't really want to do that, but I have to do it, right? So you just keep doing it, and it's like, oh, that's too much. It's just too much. To me, again, it's an energy of the burnout. It's not the workload, but it's like I'm swimming against the current. Why am I swimming against the current? It's because I'm not too happy. I'm not too pleased. I'm fed up. I'm dissatisfied with what I'm doing, but I have to do. So if you look at people that are so-called, let's use the word passionate, or simply they enjoy what they do, there's no burnout. say, let's look at marathon, right? Somebody runs a marathon. They may be physically tired at the end of the marathon, but they are never burned out. It's like, oh my God, it's too much. In fact, they'll go from one marathon to another one and another one.
That makes absolute sense, yes. So people get burnout not from being too busy, not from having too much on their plate. They get burnout because they are not getting satisfaction from the things that they are doing. So if you love what you're doing, if you feel a purpose behind the things you're doing, then it doesn't matter how busy you are because that fills you up. Whereas if it's just feels like mindless and there's no purpose and you actually dread doing it, that then leads to somebody feeling burnt out. I think that's a very important distinction and helps us to understand why some people get burnout or feel burnt out and others who have maybe as much, if not more, on their plates are happy to continue because it goes along with what brings them inner peace and fulfillment. I think that's really, really interesting.
Actually, I picked up the word that you said just now was good. They dragged. D-R-E-A-D. They dragged doing it.
Yes, exactly. Now, many sort of related, but on sort of a different tangent, many professionals struggle to separate their self-worth from their job titles. How do you help them to begin to untangle the two?
Self-worth, self-esteem, all right, whichever way we look at it, has got nothing to do what we do. When you have the high self-worth, the high self-esteem, it doesn't matter whether, we are walking down the street or we are, pursuing a goal or we are at work doing some tasking or we are leading a team, whatever there is. That means, when you have the high self-worth, it's all about, again, feeling comfortable within your own skin, feeling good about yourself, regardless where we are in the food chain, so to speak. That I have the worth. I remember when I was studying in Switzerland, and at that time, okay, I believe it's still now, that the service staff, right, whether it's in a hotel and a restaurant, is very interesting that a lot of them display high self-worth. Meaning what? They could be serving at tables, but they really walked in and talked to you and serve you with that pride that they're doing a good job. They do not behave like, oh, I'm serving tables. They take pride with what they do. So I can see even at a time where I was only 19 years old, 20 years old, I look at them and I said, wow, that's self-pride. And that self-pride comes from self-worth.
Really interesting. So self-esteem or that self-worth has nothing to do with the actual job we're doing, but it actually is something, again, sort of linked to what you said earlier, having purpose, having pride. So the person that could be serving the table or doing what others might be considering more a low-level job might be getting more out of their function or their job because they see purpose in what they are doing. Whereas somebody who might be earning a lot of money might not link or might not see purpose or value, and so they could be unfulfilled even though they might have a big bank account.
Correct. The big title, the big account, but they still, honestly, they still don't feel good. And I have that many people that are like that. They have this big title, they come in front of me, and then of course the first question is like, how may I assist you? What brought you here? Or how can I serve you? What, depending on context. And I'm very surprised. Some of the C-suite, some of the senior executives actually says to me that I have a confidence issue. You got a confidence issue? Now, they don't mean they have no confidence or low in confidence in what they do. What they really mean is like this thing inside, I call this dingy inside, that they even have this fear of being exposed. That in case people think they are not good enough for their title. Of course they are, right? They have the qualification, they have the experience, they have the exposure, and hence the word we heard of, right? Imposter syndrome.
Yes, that's something that a lot of people who have reached a certain level feel like they don't actually belong there. Well, as you said earlier, they're going to get found out. So it leaves that sort of very uneasy, uncomfortable, uncertain feeling in them, which then also means that their self-esteem, their self-worth also gets impacted by this. You used a word earlier about a mindset of people who have that inner happiness, that inner joy. I know that mindset shifts are a core part of the work that you do. What is one mindset shift you believe every executive needs to make today?
The right mindset really has to be very internal, not about external, that like the role or the title, but rather something that it boils down to attitude. I will put it this way. It boils down to attitude, how we see life, how we perceive life, how we live life. So, for example, one of the mindset I always said, don't be the best. It's crazy I say that, right? The listeners now, I'm sure like, what? Don't be the best? Of course, I'm not saying be bad. I said don't be the best because best has a ceiling. Seek excellence. Excellence always be better, better, better. You are seeking that, step up. I always call it step up, level up, not because of chasing a title, but because of the mindset to always want to excel within oneself, to become better, the becoming of me. So it's very internal and it's an absolutely positive energy, the becoming. How would I want to show up for myself? Not about how I want to show up for the world to see. It's call it whether a standard, an idea, call it what it looks like for myself, so that at the end of the day, I am satisfied with who I am. That's the mindset I'm talking about.
Yes. So it's not about wanting to be the best, but constantly, as you said, seeking excellence or to be better or to be growing. So if you have that mindset that I am constantly trying to improve myself rather than I'm trying to reach a particular plateau, but then being disappointed when we get there, rather have this mindset of constantly improving and finding ways to grow and to be better. What advice would you give for entrepreneurs or C-level executives who feel successful but unfulfilled?
Co-written this book with Jack Canfield, the guy that had been around for a long time with the Chicken Soup for the Soul. This book is Success Redefined. And there were other authors as well that we written this book called Success Redefined. And my chapter is about the paradox of success, the hidden struggles of high-performing professionals. So to answer your question, I actually specifically in that chapter wrote about, 5 steps, 5 steps that we can focus on fulfillment. One is introspection. We have to look inwards, look inside, all right, to know the fundamental, our values, our North Star, particularly like I said, the direction, not the direction of a goal, but the direction of deep down inside, what's my values, my core values, what is important, what matters. So when you come from that space, then it's really internal. Then next, we need to look into individual improvement, and the individual improvement includes not being ignorant to what's happening in this world. For example, the AI, right? I know everybody talks about AI. So I'm not just talking about, you got to know what's AI, but really the application of it in the real world. How does that impact on my life? Not my job, but, my life or whatever else out there that is happening that I need to know and need to improve to be in alignment to what's out there. And of course, the third step is integrating your personal and professional life. As I said earlier on about, being a kid, I already knew, right? You need to work and you need to play, right? That kind of integrating them. Earlier I said, right? Time for everything, right? My me time, my family time, the couple time, especially my own personal time with myself. And the fourth step is interpersonal investment, meaning this is more about relationship. Right? What kind of relationship, the type of relationship that you want? Friendship, is that the fair weather friendship that you want? You just have lots of friends and looking good, or you really want friends that meant something, right? To each his own. I'm not going to say what is important, but to really investing in the interpersonal way with people. And of course, the fifth one, last but not least, always investing in yourself. When I say the investment, I'm talking about a combination of self-care. That's also investing yourself. All right, the self-care, your finance, relationship I mentioned early on, being the best version of yourself. All that are considered as investing yourself. Yeah, these are the 5 steps that I talk about so that one can feel fulfilled.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So if somebody wants to go read more deeply about this, then they need to go and read that book, Success Redefined, and find your chapter on the paradox of success.
Yes, the paradox. Yeah. I happen to be on chapter 2.
You mentioned here several times about that balance. How do you personally maintain balance while supporting others to do the same?
I always say I'm first a practitioner, then a coach. Everything that I coach about is everything that I do for myself first. So like the 5 steps I talked about early on, I practice them. Number 1, my self-care. I invest time, effort, money. When I say money, I don't mean going for like procedures and stuff like that. When I say money, I mean like sometimes certain kind of external thing like a good massage, a good kind of a holistic treatment, going to the gym, although I got my own home gym, that sort of thing. So it's time, effort, and money for self-care. That's the first thing one must not neglect.
Excellent. I love that. So you practice what you preach. So you have that balance, and then you're willing to, and you prioritize looking after yourself, your own self-care, and be that through your time, effort, and money. And I think sometimes when we are very busy and we've got lots of responsibilities, it's very, very easy to neglect our self-care. We put everything and everyone else first, and then there's no time or resources left for us to take care of ourselves. And I think if we can have one takeaway from our discussion with you today, it is that self-care is a priority and should be a priority, because that is what helps us to maintain that balance that you've been speaking about throughout our conversation today.
That's right.
Now we have come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Sure.
One word to describe your coaching style.
Upfront and personal.
A morning ritual that you never skip.
My exercise. That's the first thing I do. I wake up, I do what is necessary, and then, like I said, I've got my own home gym, and then I get changed to go to my home gym.
A book that changed your mindset.
Oh, there's so many, really. But if we talk about the one that really impacted me a lot, not very commercial in that sense, it's from the 3 Principles. His name is Sydney Banks. It's no longer with us, but all the books from him had taken shape for me. Yeah.
Lovely. In one word, what does fulfillment mean to you?
It means I go to sleep and I'm at peace.
What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
Rest.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Well, thank you for playing along. Now I would like to ask you our signature green pill question. If you took the green pill to go back in time and change one thing about your journey, what would it be?
Relationships. How do I mean? You've heard early on that I've got a mom that's kind of an entrepreneur and she's tough. And the only thing I knew from her, not blaming her, I'm thankful for that, is tough love. So therefore, that's the only thing I know how to apply. It can become so tough. I meant well, just like my mother. The intention is positive, is out of love. Anything that I say, anything that I do. But then again, different folks, different stroke. Not everybody can subscribe to tough love. So if I can change anything else, I would like to change being more fluid, being more adaptable to the other person rather than just being so fixated about my belief, even it's all positive.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing. That's a very personal learning from your own life that you've shared with us. And I really appreciate that you did that, because I think that kind of self-reflection is so good, and good for us to also realize sometimes the approach we know, the approach maybe, as you said, that our parents gave us, might not always serve us in the best way. And so being willing to say, you know what, I can do this differently, different people, as you said, different strokes for different folks. So that we need to possibly approach different people in a different way. And tough love is not always the answer, depending on the person and on the situation. So thank you so much for sharing that very personal experience with us. And thank you also for being here today and for this excellent conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you. My pleasure once again. Appreciate.
Before we go, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more about your coaching and the professional paradox?
First, of course, my website is easy to remember, nancyho.com. nancyho.net, nancyho.net, N-E-T. Or you can just search whether it's in LinkedIn, whether it is in Facebook, all the social platform like Coach Nancy Ho Singapore. You definitely can find me. And I look forward to connecting. I would love to have conversation with your listeners. All right. And anytime there's any question, anything, I want to connect with me, most welcome.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you've ever felt like your outer success didn't quite match your inner experience, this episode is your invitation to redefine the rules. Be sure to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and join us again next week for more inspiring conversations. Until next time, stay balanced, stay mindful, and keep growing with purpose.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.